Hey, David here, Texas Horns Football, doing a review of Texas 48, Rice 13. Game 3 of the season, Texas moves to 2-1, finishing out the non-conference games, heading into Big 12 play 2, and we'll also kind of look ahead to Oklahoma State. So, obviously, I think what we wanted to see and expected to see against Rice is what we got. Really dominant win, especially on offense, and holding Rice to 0 points until the game was pretty much put away. Still some concerning things I think we saw, but overall I think the offense looked about as crisp and as confident as they looked all year. I was interested to see if maybe things would start out somewhat slow, just coming off of the frustrating loss against LSU, just going toe-to-toe with them. So was hoping not to see kind of a letdown game. Yes, Rice obviously overmatched, but you still want to see Texas perform at a level where they look crisp and confident, and where they look as if it is the third game of the season, so you want them to look as good as possible heading into Big 12 play, even playing a team like Rice. So I thought Sam looked fantastic. Passes were on point. We were without Colin Johnson, but again, Devin Duvernay stepping up big. We saw more of Malcolm Epps, who basically took over for Colin Johnson at his spot. And then Jake Smith, true freshman Jake Smith, who mostly plays that backup slot position, backing up Devin Duvernay. 2 touchdowns for Jake, which was big. So that's 3 touchdowns for him in the past 2 weeks. So it's cool to see those younger guys step up in games like this. That's one thing that you hope to see. You want the starters to get out there, dominate the game, and then start seeing what you have from some of these younger guys getting mixed in there. Running backs, I thought Kiana Ingram started off a little slow, but had still looked great. I believe he still led the team in yards per carry, and then saw even more of true freshman Rashawn Johnson, converted quarterback at running back. I thought he looked great, showed that burst again, and showed, that kid just doesn't hesitate when he decides to stick it in there and hit the hole. He does that really, really well for a converted quarterback. So the athleticism is obviously there. There was a lot of arguments on Facebook after the game about Keontae versus Rashawn Johnson. I don't see it as a battle. I don't think it has to be. I still really, really like Kiana Ingram in there as the number 1 back. So it's going to be interesting to see how that still plays out. We did get Daniel Young back, who's still at the 3rd running back in the depth chart, but he's back from being banged up a little bit. So his first action of the season. What else? We saw a little bit of John Burt, not so much Brennan Eagles this time. But, with a receiver core that deep and that talented, that's going to happen from time to time. We're going to kind of pick our heads up and say, hey, where's Brennan Eagles? Where's so-and-so? Where's Cade Brewer? That'll happen. So thought Sam still, ran well. Obviously, he wasn't having to run to move the offense and to get those first downs, but I definitely think that the offense dominated run pass the way you want to see them. Sometimes the offense can be off or out of sync just because they're out of sync, not necessarily what the defense is doing. And that's definitely something you don't want to see with a game like this, coming off of LSU and then heading into Big 12 play. You still want to see them look crisp, mentally focused, and just dominant. I think that's what we saw. Defense, I thought the front 6 impacted the game a lot more than they did against Louisiana Tech and LSU, but mostly because of the type of offense that Rice runs. I think Rice had like 50-something yards total at halftime, and I just think the front 6, the 3 down linemen and the 3 linebackers, were able to impact that more. A little bit more of Malcolm Roach, a little bit more of Keandre Coburn and Taquan Graham, and then obviously Joseph Asai, there at linebacker, Jeffrey McCulloch, and then defensive backs, I thought for the most part played well, ran around well. Late in the game, there was, some big chunks of yards, big chunks of plays from the Rice offense. But I think that's kind of hard to calculate when you're up, so high. I don't think you're going to play the type of defense as you would play in a somewhat close game. So that one's kind of hard. But I still think there's definitely pass defense issues. And I know everyone's focused on the defensive backs, and I think mostly rightfully so. But, that's always an overall problem that we don't necessarily get to see. So, the test is going to come against Oklahoma State for sure. And what they bring into Austin after their first 3 games, Chuba Hubbard right now is the leading rusher in the country. He's also leading or tied in rushing touchdowns. And then their number 1 receiver, Tylan Wallace, is in the exact same boat, leading the nation in receiving yards and in touchdowns. And he might be tied in touchdowns. I think he has 5 or 6 touchdowns. But Oklahoma State's bringing in, basically the nation's leading rusher and leading receiver next week. So it's definitely a concern. Yes, one of those games was against McNeese State, but and Tulsa, which the Tulsa game was actually pretty close for a while. But it is a concern, but it's a great test for Texas. It's a great test for the offense to see if they can continue that momentum that they've had in the first 3 games to control the drives, control the clock, and come up with ways to keep Oklahoma State's offense off the field as much as possible. And then obviously, for the defense, getting pressure in the pass game and making sure that the run game doesn't pop off those big runs from time to time. You can stuff a running back, several plays in a row, but if they pop off a 30, 40-yard run, it kind of negates the good. So hopefully control the running game. Don't let the passing game get out of hand by running around and letting those receivers, run routes all over the place. I believe Oklahoma State's second receiver has fewer than 100 yards, so they're really, really counting on Tylan Wallace to be most of their passing game so far this season, and he's done a fantastic job of it. So that's going to be a huge one. But like I said, Oklahoma State is 4-0 against Texas the past 4 years, so this is definitely a revenge game. And even the next 2 games, Oklahoma State and West Virginia, to open up Big 12 play, 2 teams that Texas lost to last season that they're looking at getting some revenge on. So gonna be a big one Saturday night against Oklahoma State. Gonna be a fun game. Should be a pretty awesome crowd back in Austin. And, most of the front half of the schedule is in the state of Texas. West Virginia is the only game outside of the state of Texas of those first, several games, because obviously Oklahoma is in Dallas and then Rice was in Houston. So anyway, drop your comments below what you thought about the Rice game. Tom Herman's press conference today did update Zach Shackelford, who was carted off the field against Rice. That probably concerned me more than anything else I saw. And then obviously Colin Johnson did not play. The injury update that Herman gave: Shackelford, Colin Johnson, and Joseph Asai. Joseph Asai banged up his shoulder late in the game, but Herman said all 3 of those guys are probable for Oklahoma State. And with kind of his follow-up comment, it sounded like Colin Johnson is going to practice this week and be ready for Oklahoma State. And Shackelford is probable, so we'll see there. Losing Shackelford, I think, would be huge. It doesn't sound like even if he does miss Oklahoma State, he's not going to be out for a long time. There is a bye week there coming up, but losing a leadership captain center like Shackelford, a 4-year starter, is so huge. especially for the offensive line and how they work together. The center is really the quarterback of the offensive line, communicating with the guards, identifying shifts in the defense, what the linebackers are doing, blocking schemes. A lot of times, depending on the play and what the defense is showing, it's the center that will sometimes call somewhat of an audible for the offensive line, and that's just so huge. And then Osai, I expect Osai to play, given how Tom Herman was explaining that today in the press conference. So he's obviously a massive impact player. I think Joseph Osai and Brandon Jones are by far and away your top two defensive players so far this season. So definitely need him in there to make plays at linebacker. Dicker the kicker, 57-yard field goal and a 46-yard field goal. And even that 57-yarder, I think, would have been good from another maybe 5 yards. Probably would have hit it from over 60 yards. But that was just cool to see. And, when a kicker makes a long field goal like that, yes, it was at NRG Stadium in Houston, so not outside. But, when a kicker makes a 57-yard field goal in a game, no matter who it's against, that's still impressive. So that was cool to see. We're gonna need him. Texas is gonna need Cameron Dicker this season in crucial situations. So that was something that I thought was cool to see. It was also cool to see the kick return for the touchdown late in the game, the first non-offensive touchdown of the year. Joseph Osai should have had one against Louisiana Tech, but it was called back. Interception return for a touchdown was called back. But that was just cool to see, just to be able to see that can break out and happen. And we've had some 40, 50-plus offensive yard plays and touchdowns so far this season, which is cool to see. So anyway, drop your comments below, guys. I appreciate it. Don't forget to give the video a like, subscribe, share it out. And check us out on Facebook, on our Facebook page, Texas Horns Football. We have over 53,000 Longhorns fans on there, just talking, connecting with each other, meeting each other. So definitely check us out on there, and we'll see you on the next video. Hook 'em.